Hey, we're back. This is S.I.T Social Issues time. I'm here with my lovely co-host, Gauthami. Girl, work it. Work it. And then Tilde. And we are here. This is episode 2. We've just started coming back together, doing this thing again. Yeah. I'm so excited to be with you all. I was kind of down and now I'm all perked back up. So we've been having some interesting conversations since the first episode and really been spending time talking about some of the injustices that are going on in our society. And so we're going to spend some time tonight talking about injustice and power and what does that look like in our communities and how does it impact us in our relationships with each other. So Gauthami, kind of kick us off with an experience you've had recently.
So on Easter Sunday morning, as I was teaching piano lessons, I was in between lessons and I had gone to fill up my car with gas. And as I was doing that, a couple of people in a truck yelled out, "Hey, sand nigger, why don't you go back to your country?" And I did not know how to respond to that. And of course, you know, they say, don't react, respond. But I was actually really speechless. And I didn't know how to handle it because if I acted out of fear and yelled out back at them, I don't know what the consequences would have been. You know, and it's really sad that this is still happening in this day and age. In this multicultural society, I'm really, really sad to say and disgusted that this is still happening.
Yeah, and the reality is it is very common. It's almost, we talked about earlier, social media, it's almost commonplace to read those words. I mean, when I saw it on Facebook and you had shared your experience, I was horrified, you know, and I was angry and could relate to your experience and was so happy that you shared it, because for a lot of people, when they have those experiences, they don't talk about it and let people know that this is a real issue. As much progress has been made, we still have a long way to go.
Yeah, and I think for those of us, like the three of us that don't see color, it's so shocking when something like that does happen. You know, I mean, I know when I read the post, I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to go beat the crap out of these people, you know, because it's just so disgusting and so wrong. And I don't know, my heart just goes out to you and to other people that are experiencing it on a daily basis, not just a one-off type thing, but on a daily basis, you know.
I had a friend of mine talk about, and I tend to agree, that it becomes so heavy in carrying the issues of dealing with racism and classism and sexism, but particularly when you're dealing with race and something that you're born with. You can't go in and change that, and having to carry the weight of that can be exhausting. And having to walk into situations expecting the best, and that may not happen. And to see the number of cases of, you know, whether it's racial profiling or police brutality that have happened in communities of color, it's startling to think that for the progress that's been made, that this is a real issue, that America really has been having a challenge in addressing and owning. You know, that this is an issue that we have to address. I don't think we can move forward as a society until we start having some real conversations about the pain and the impact. And I think there are people who go, yeah, we recognize that this has happened, but get over it. That was so long ago. And my response to that is, but it happens every single day now. You just may not be privy to that, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah, just because it doesn't happen in your world doesn't mean it doesn't happen at all. Yeah. You know, I'm just like you said, it happens every day for someone, you know, just to go through that. And the trauma that you feel after it's said, it's like, it's ingrained now. You know, hey, this person called me this. It's going to stay with me for a long time. You know, it's like every time I go to a gas station now, it's like, oh, is somebody going to say something? Yeah. You know, so that fear is still there and it's going to be ingrained.
How did your Facebook responses turn out with that? Because I noticed you had a lot of people responding. What did you get from
I
that?
got the best feedback. And, you know, there are others that shared their own experiences too. And I was hoping for that. You know, my situation is going to help somebody else's situation. And to encourage, if this did happen to somebody, you know, to come out and talk about it too. And the feedback that I received was amazing. And a lot of my friends also shared my post too. So
I find it amazing how this country just forgets what this country was actually founded on. You know?
Preach.
Let's talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about that.
You know, I mean, seriously, it was a bunch of immigrants. Period. And that's all
that you
everybody
brought in,
is.
and you enslaved people. You know, and I don't think we own that. There was a artist, gospel artist, who had up on Facebook yesterday. He put a picture of Africans in slavery in this country, and he said July 4th, 1776. This is what my ancestors were doing, and people were outraged. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute, people. Why are you mad? It's truth. They weren't out having celebrations and experiencing the same 4th of July that other people were experiencing. That's not to get into a debate. I think people want to use value statements of that's right or wrong. It isn't. It is. Yeah. It just is. And I think as a country, one, we've kind of watered down history. So we really don't talk about what has happened. And yet, even out of those experiences, how do we learn and move forward? Not forgetting those things, because if you don't remember them, you're destined to repeat it. And I think you're seeing that in the political rhetoric that's going on now, is that people don't have a clear understanding of the history of this country and how all of us contributed, and one is not better than the other. It's all valuable and important.
You know, I got a huge history lesson not too long ago when I was visiting my parents earlier this year, and we were talking about the election, you know, and I asked my parents, I'm like, I think I asked my mom, I'm like, Mom, when did Hispanics, you know, Latinos get the right to vote? And she says, I don't know. She says, I can't remember. And so I said, this is a good learning lesson for all of us. So I started Googling, because I didn't know when, you know, we had actually gained the rights to do that. Come to find out, it's 10 years after the African American vote.
Really?
Isn't that amazing? I mean, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me, 10 years after?
Wow.
And it was not just the Hispanics, but it was also the Native Americans, you know, and other non-whites, you know, that weren't included in the, I think it was 1965 or something like that. But it was, so it was 1965, and then so 1975. 75 is when they included the amendment for the Latino community and the Native Americans. Yeah, isn't that crazy?
10 years later. Wow.
Yeah, 10 years.
But it speaks volumes that we don't know that kind of information. Because, you know, I even have said to people, as much as I'm very proud of who I am and my background, but I think when you segregate it to being just African American history, it's our history. All of us are part of that history. And when we just act like it goes over here and it's compartmentalized, I think people miss out on the richness of how this country was built, and on the backs of so many people who are, you know, we don't know their names, we've never seen, which is why I love You Go Girl, because you really are recognizing people that are sheroes that many folks have never heard of, that have sacrificed their lives so that we are able to benefit and be in a better position. I think it's so dangerous when we don't take the time to learn from our past and begin to own it. You know, we were talking earlier about privilege, and I think that's what privilege allows you to do, is to be able to pick up stuff and put it down when you want to. Well, some people can't put it down and leave it there. It's something that they have to carry all the time.
Yeah, I agree. You know, even I get concerned about a lot of the history books too. A lot of the things that children are being taught in high school, you know, junior high, just about religion, about just who's come to this country, just the history. It's really concerning, really concerning to me.
And what role have women played in the making of this country, which has been huge, but I think a lot of times just omitted from the history books.
Well, you see that even now with pay. I mean, it's not just the issue of, you know, the historical piece, which is critical, but there are present ramifications because of those things that have happened in the past. And so looking at what women make on the dollar compared to men, I mean, there's been all this research even as of late in the last couple of weeks of talking about those issues. And I think that it's going to be important that we bring that to the forefront. The thing with history is interesting in some of the textbooks, how they won't use the term slavery. They'll say the triangular trade. Well, sure, that was a term for it, but that doesn't really get you to understand what was going on. So how people are even using semantics to soften reality is problematic for me.
It was slavery. Use the word
Own it.
slavery. Why take it away?
Own it.
You know, there's a huge history there. You know, I'd like to go back to school here after 10 years to see how they would describe all the events that have occurred for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Because there's been a lot revolving around racism.
But you have to, you know, there's somebody who made this quote that was so powerful to me is you have to ask who's telling the story and who benefits from the telling of the story. And I heard that quote and I was like, that's deep. Because sometimes stories are told for the purpose of the person who's sharing it. And if everybody's story is not included in that, we're cheating ourselves. It's not just the group of people. So if you don't learn about me, you're not thinking, you can't think it's just hurting me. It's hurting all of us because that's a part of who we are. And we have to be aware of the, you know, trials and triumphs that people have gone through. And we can't just talk about, oh, Martin Luther King. He was great. And don't get me wrong, I think what he's contributed is huge to our country. But there are other people that have done great things that the world needs to know about. Otherwise, you miss out on, again, the richness and this fabric that makes people who they are.
Well, and you give this illusion that Martin Luther King, I mean, he was bigger than life, right? And you think that for people that aren't there or that don't have that huge following, you know, they don't think that their voice matters, really. Yeah, right. When in reality, it does. And Martin Luther King just didn't pop up on stage with, you know, thousands of followers. I mean, he was preaching in churches initially to small groups, and then it grew to something, you know, a movement.
Well, this is what people don't know. It was a woman who was really helping educate him, Septima Clark. And she would have these schools where you would see these pictures where they were calling him communist and he was doing communist training. No, they would have these retreats with whites and blacks and bring folks together. And here's this woman who's teaching them to understand not only history, but voters' education and what these grandfather clauses and things meant. It's a woman behind that. They don't talk about Fannie Lou Hamer. Here's this African-American woman who was not highly educated, but she is, you know, before she died, she was voted one of the most important women in Mississippi history. She was a washerwoman. She got beaten for trying to vote. And this woman would sing and she would be at all of these rallies. And she was so instrumental in the civil rights movement. Those are the people that aren't always at the forefront, but have done incredible work. He wouldn't be who he was if it hadn't been for women like that and Rosa Parks. And there's so many others that we don't even, you know, always know about. And I think that that's why history is so important. People always want to put it back here. And it is something that we carry all the time. It's about time we start unpacking that and learning from it.
Yeah,
agree.
Absolutely.
Now, Tilde, being a Latina, have you ever...
Latina?
Hold on. Am I colorblind? Hold on. Are you Latina? Oh, right. Yes, we are. And I'm. And
Sing a song.
Kumbaya? Can we just sing Kumbaya?
No.
Have you ever experienced racism?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In my hometown, you know, I mean, you were looked at funny when you went into the country club or attempted to go into the country club. Sometimes you weren't allowed into the country club. As well as after I got married and going to North Carolina on vacation, we had gone up to we were wanting to rent Sea-Doos. Yeah. And Sea-Doos were lined up out there, right? We walk in, and it should have been really evident from the very beginning because they wouldn't even look at me, you know. And my ex-husband is white, and they wouldn't even look at me. And so when he asked, you know, or told them that we wanted to rent a Sea-Doo, he said, "We don't have any." And he said, "What are you talking about? You've got like 5, you know, out there." And like, "Well, they're all out." And so he asked, "When do they come back?" And they're like, "I don't know when they come back." And so then he started getting, you know, really upset, and I knew what was happening. And I said, "You know what?" I said, "Let's just go." And he's like, "No." I said, "No." I said, "Let's just go," you know? Yeah. And so that was the first time as a grown adult, really, that had happened. Yeah. And of course, my ex-husband was having a hissy fit. And for me, it was just like, you know what? I don't want to give my money to people like that. So let's just go, you know? Did it surprise me? Yes, you know? But at the same time, I think I was comfortable in my own skin by that time frame, and it wasn't about me, it was about them. And so, I mean, I've had other instances as well, but of course, I think any one of us that is of a different skin color, you know, will experience it at least once in our lifetime, and it won't be comfortable, you know? So, I mean, it's not comfortable right now being here with Dave, who's white, you know?
Dave, look at me.
Dave, I have a suggestion. I think you need a tan.
I'm saying Dave is fine the way he is.
Thank you.
I love you, Dave.
Thank you.
It's all right, because Dave loves me.
Yeah, but I think it's the reaction that we all, like, you didn't re-engage those people, right? I mean, after they called you that name, and I certainly didn't say anything, you know, to those people either. And I think it's that sort of reaction that we need to be or emulate, if you will, and not allowing ignorant people, and I will call them ignorant, not allowing ignorant people to affect us and the way that we feel about ourselves.
Right.
You know, I think that there's still obviously things that we can do to bridge the gap and things like that, but for some people, they're just gonna hate, you know, as the term suggests.
I'm sorry, I gotta speak up. There is actual genuine ignorant people, and ignorance can be overcome, right? My daughter, okay, she's 10. She comes home with things that you were talking about history. She comes home with things that they're teaching her in public school, and I have to break through her ignorance and the miscommunication, the misinformation, and tell her the real history and real truth so her ignorance is overcome. What you guys were experiencing with the sea-doos and with being called a sand nigger, that is not ignorance. That's not a
That's hateful.
That's not a 5-year-old who heard someone say that and thinks that's what they're supposed to say. What you experience is hatred, okay, which is between them and Jesus, okay, and meanness. And the only thing you can do is walk away from it. Because if you try, you can't overcome it. You can't sit down and have a conversation and educate that person and expect them to go, I was so wrong.
Right.
They're just, it's gonna be like some of these debates where you see where it's like, oh yeah, that's what you're gonna get. Oh yeah,
and
so's your old man.
Is exactly what I was thinking. Is there are opportunities for teachable moments, and so how do you create the space to be able to say to somebody? Because I don't think you can let everybody off the hook. I think you have to know, you know, your surroundings and be safe. Because I've had it happen with TSA where they've gone through my hair. You know, I've been pulled over. I mean, they actually just did, you know, something for African American women to start saying, stop going through their hair. You know, and it's like, are you serious? So anybody who has natural hairstyles, you're going to go in my hair and touch it. And other women can have buns and balls and they can walk through line.
Or Texas do.
Right. I can be, I am pulled over. I remember one of my friends, we're flying back from LA, and white male, and he was horrified because I got pulled over. And I was, in some ways, I was happy he was angry, because I'm like, I haven't just been telling you this and you think it's random. Yeah. Now you see it up close. And he was like, first of all, I couldn't believe that they pulled you aside. And I'm like, it happens every time I go through TSA. I'm always patted down. And so other people can come in with sweatpants and different things. And I'm looking going, you know, at first you go, okay, maybe it's what I'm wearing. And you start questioning yourself, because that's what racism will do, is make people begin to question their own intentions instead of going, no. This isn't right. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't say this. But a situation like TSA, I can't stop and educate them. That's a power thing. Right. So I have to look at my return on investment and go, is it worth me engaging with this person who makes this amount of money, who's mad at the world anyway? Probably not. But there are other opportunities. And like what you went through, I don't know if you should have engaged those folks. You don't know what they had in their truck. Right. You don't know who they could have called. So there's a safety issue. But I think that we have to begin to start going, there are times when we cannot allow racism to happen, and we have to be willing, and our advocates, because I think it's important for whites to stand up and say, this is not cool. Right. Yeah. And our advocates have to rally around and say, this is an important issue, and it's important not just for my friend, it's important for me, for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to stand up for each other. Otherwise, we're just going to let the problem go on and on and on without a solution. So,
Well, and they keep getting away with it and thinking that nobody's going to say anything to them.
I think when we experience such things, like you said, we have to be aware of our surroundings. And if it's in the right setting, okay, we can fill them with knowledge, fill them with education, whatnot, but it's got to be up to us to make that decision.
Yeah.
You know?
And you have to be able to say that's unacceptable. I mean, people have to know that this is not right. But again, I think that there's the time and the place, and I think it's the return on investment. There's some people, to Dave's point, they're just full of hate. And it's going to take them and Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, everybody else to really get them in a place where, I mean, look at Westboro Baptist Church. I even hate to say the name. I mean, I don't understand what Bible you're reading that allows you to do that, but I feel like that with some other religions, and you see fundamentalists who lose their minds. I'm going, what are you reading? Because your scriptures don't say that. Exactly. They are bent on hate. And in my mind, you cannot succumb to those kind of people either and turn your head. Because otherwise, if we start isolating ourselves and walking away, they win, and they don't deserve to.
If your thoughts are not pure, your actions are definitely not going to be pure.
Yeah. It reminds me of the conversation that I interjected myself in when I was at a local coffee shop, and
Good story.
So, and I was sitting there minding my own business, and this elder gentleman was sitting across from a younger woman, and they were both white. And he started the conversation, or politics got into the conversation, and then about Trump, and then about the illegal immigrant situation. And he started spouting off all sorts of data, and that was wrong, about illegal immigrants and how they're all coming over here to for health care and getting stuff for free, that they don't pay taxes, blah, blah, blah. And I mean, I had listened to probably a good 15, 20 minutes of it when I finally got fed up. And when you start to feel something rise up in you, and you're just like, I have got to say something before I just lose it here. And so I said, excuse me. I said, I don't mean to interrupt you. I said, but I have to say something. I said, because you're wrong. There are some immigrants that are paying taxes and that are filing their taxes. I said, so they can create the type of record that they need to get their citizenship. I said, so don't be lumping everybody into one category. Because there are some really great citizens or immigrants that are trying to become citizens the right way. I said, and for you to lump them all into one pile, I said, is not fair at all, and it's not true. And he was taken aback, of course, because I was just like interjecting myself, and he said. And he started to interrupt me. I said, no, that's not right about, them not paying their taxes and stuff. I said, my CPA works with these people that come here, and they're working and they're paying taxes, and in order to get their legal citizenship status. And he says, I guess you're right. He says, I didn't know that. And I was just like, oh my gosh, but here you are telling this young woman everything you know about it, without even knowing it, and pissed off about it. And I'm thinking, I just couldn't stand it.
But that happens every single day, because people have perceptions of communities and things that go on. And I have to even say, for the area that I'm blessed to work in daily, there's this attitude of, people are lazy and, we need to come and help them. No, they are not. Yeah. They are intelligent and brilliant people who have not had access and availability to resources that other people have had. Yeah. And privilege allows you to be able to say things like that. And that's where I think as a society, those are the two things to me that I don't think we deal well with, is we don't talk about power and owning our power and how we can use it or not use it, and privilege. And people have to recognize, when you're educated, when you have resources, there's a level of privilege that you have and access to things that some people don't have. Yeah. I commented, one day to somebody about Kaze was doing tennis lessons, and they were having matches at country clubs. Some of these places I had never been to before, and you would think, oh, no, I haven't. I didn't know some of these places even existed. There's a level of privilege that people have, and I'm not knocking them for having that. What I'm saying is you can't blame other people because they don't have it.
Right.
Because for whatever reason, you were able to get, into some schools that other people didn't get into, or your family left you that kind of legacy. Just own the privilege. And then how do you use that in a way that's beneficial to help other people and not be selfish about it and keep others out and blame them for their existence when, if we're honest, sometimes we've contributed to where people are indirectly or directly because of decisions that we've made historically or current.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we can't keep our mouths shut. We've got to be open about it.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, I think when you feel it necessary, just do it.
What is a terminology we use in child welfare? Address it at the point of crisis.
There you go. And we are in a crisis.
We are in a big crisis.
So how are we on our...
Oh, you're fine.
Okay.
I mean, it's about time to wrap up. Sorry.
So we love you. I feel like we should break out in song. So ladies, we've got a number of other topics that we're going to be discussing this time. Kind of throw out some things that you think we should.
Oh my God, there's so many. We've talked about so many different topics.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to talk about genocide.
Yes.
Gendercide.
Yes.
Gendercide. Oh my gosh.
I think poverty to me,
Yes, it's huge.
Yeah, and I still think we should re-tackle human trafficking and sexual exploitation.
That's very real.
Yeah, and it's never been more prominent than today.
Right. Right.
Domestic violence was another one
Yes.
we have not yet discussed, so that was on our agenda. But if there's topics out there you all want to hear us discuss and talk about, something that interests you, please message us
And we'll be
let us
bringing-
know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're
I didn't mean
fine.
to- I was going to say too, we're going to be bringing guests on.
Yes, we will be
Because we
bringing
had talked about that. Because at some point you're probably like, we like you, but
we don't like that much.
We'd like another point of view.
So we're going to be bringing other people on to get different perspectives because that's the way we learn and grow. So ladies,
Kumbaya.
you want to break out in song? Tilde, I can feel it. You want to sing? You want to twerk?
That's not twerking. That's called the sprinkler, the Indian sprinkler.
Oh my gosh, shit, let's start.
Shouldn't you also do the thing where you
light bulb?
You gotta do the clap and
That's so cool. That's so cool. Well, ladies, I love you. And it's so good to be back together and talking. You don't realize how it just lifts my spirit to just be in the same space with you.
Me too, I agree. I know we were all tired like when we got here, and the minute we sat down, it was all over.
Yeah, the songs and the energy. And so thank you all so much. And we thank you guys for being with us again.
Yes, thank you everybody for joining us on Social Issues Time, and be looking for the next one.
Have a great week.
Thank you.